He said it was for our future, for the home we'd buy, the dream we'd build, the life we were planning. He took my bank password while holding my hand, smiling, telling me I was his forever. 6 months later, I was $42,000 in debt. My credit score was ruined, and I learned he never used his real name. He was the kind of man who used the word we a lot. We should get out of this city. We need to think long term. We can do better than this. The first time I met him, I felt like I'd stepped into a fast-moving train headed somewhere I'd always wanted to go. He wasn't flashy. He didn't wear expensive watches or talk about cars. He talked about equity, stocks, property. He asked me what I wanted in 10 years, not in a small talk way, but like he was already thinking of where we'd retire. It felt like a compliment, like he saw me as someone worth building around. I was 27, steady job, stable savings, no debt. I wasn't rich, but I was proud of what I had. I'd spent most of my 20s being responsible. He said he admired that. He said most women just spend what they have. He said I was different. He said a lot of things. He moved in fast, figuratively, then literally. We met in March. By May, he was sleeping over 5 nights a week. By June, we were talking about joint investment accounts, shared bills, long-term planning. He had a Google Doc titled Our Future, color-coded, with timelines. The first line said, Q 3/20/25, joint account plus debt consolidation plus duplex prep. I should have run right then. But instead, I showed it to my sister and said, "Can you believe how grown up he is?" He worked in real estate finance, or so he said. Said he was between jobs but had private clients. He'd always be typing emails at weird hours, pacing the living room, talking about deals that were about to close. He wasn't ego-driven, but he had confidence. The kind that made you question yourself when you doubted him. He knew how to talk like he knew everything. And I wanted to believe him, because believing him made me feel smart too. Like I was leveling up by being with someone who understood money. We started talking about property. He said if we pooled our savings, we could buy early. That with my credit and his connections, we could qualify for better mortgage rates. He talked in numbers, but he made it feel like poetry. It was late July when he asked me to check something in my bank app while we were lying in bed. I unlocked my phone. He glanced over, said, "Oh, you use that for your password?" Smart. I laughed. "You memorized it?" He smiled. "Only because you typed it in like 100 times. Don't worry, I'm not going to steal your millions." That was the joke. We laughed. He kissed me. And that was that. But a week later, he logged into it from his laptop. I never saw it happen. I just noticed one day the last login IP address was not mine. I asked him. He said, "Oh yeah, I was checking if the transfer went through." I hadn't asked him to do that, but he sounded so casual, so certain, so loving. He said, "I want to make sure we're being smart about this." I felt small for doubting him. We didn't merge our accounts, but he started calling mine our reserves. He'd make jokes like, "Let me check our balance real quick." He always said our. I always let it slide. Because I thought that's what couples did when they were building something together. He was helping. He was involved. He was planning ahead. I didn't realize the plan was never ours. I didn't notice the first withdrawal. It was masked by our rent payment. I had set up automatic transfers. Rent pulled on the 1st, savings pulled on the 15th, grocery budget capped at $500 a month. I lived by my spreadsheets until they started lying to me. A $750 transfer hit on the 8th. It didn't belong to anything. Not rent, not groceries, not utilities. I checked the memo. A CH internal. No name, no destination, just gone. I asked him if he'd noticed it. He shrugged. "Maybe your bank did an internal correction?" "It happens." It didn't, but he said it so naturally. so offhand. I figured he knew more than me. He always knew more than me. I moved on, even though the feeling in my chest told me not to. Over that next week, he started talking about the duplex again, the one we were supposedly applying for. Said the market was getting tight, that we needed to move fast. Said he already had a lender on standby. He called it an off-market opportunity. It sounded impressive, urgent, serious. I should have said no, it was moving too fast. But instead I said, "How much do we need?" Because some part of me wanted what I thought he was building. So I let him lead. He said we needed $20,000 to secure the down payment. I told him I didn't have that much anymore. He said he'd cover the majority, but I'd have to show income stability for the loan to go through. He sent me forms, real-looking ones, pre-approval letters with a logo, a contact name, rate sheets. He forwarded emails from a broker named Darren. Darren said everything was on track. We just needed to verify funds. He asked for access to my full financial profile. He already had my banking information. Now he needed a copy of my W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns. I sent them, because I believed he was doing this for our future like he always told me. He started asking me to make payments, just for the inspection fee, just for the appraiser, just a wire to hold the listing. I kept receipts. Each time he swore it was reimbursable. Once escrow opens, it'll all come back. That phrase again, for our future. I paid $1,200, then $800, then another $3,500. Each transaction hollowed me out. Each one left me more nervous than the last. Because I knew. On some level, I knew something was wrong. So I emailed Darren directly, the broker, the one from the pre-approvals and forward chains. I wrote a simple message. "Hi, I'm following up on the loan status for the duplex. Let me know if you need anything else from me." The email bounced. Address not found. I checked the domain name from the email headers. It wasn't a bank. It wasn't even a real domain. It was a Gmail alias with a fake signature. He had created the broker. He had faked the email chain. He had forged the letters. He built an entire financial theater just to get to my money. The duplex didn't exist. The seller didn't exist. The escrow never opened. But the debt? That part was real. I had drained what little I had left in savings. I had opened a new line of credit, at his request, to protect our liquidity. It was maxed. I owed $14,200 on a credit card in my name. For a house that wasn't real. I then checked my bank account and there had been 3 more withdrawals. $400, $975, then $1,200, all labeled the same. A CH internal. I looked it up. It's a placeholder. Banks use it when money is moved between accounts, especially linked ones. Accounts you gave permission to. Or ones someone else linked for you. I called the bank. The rep was polite. He asked, "Are you familiar with an account ending in 32-91? I said no. He said, "It's been receiving transfers from your checking account for the past 5 weeks. It appears to be a Union Bay account." I don't bank with Union Bay. But he did. The rep asked me if I wanted to be transferred to the fraud department. I thought about it for a minute, then said no. I needed time to think. I knew if I just cut off this account, he would know I knew what he was doing. I knew I needed to be smarter if I was going to catch him. I sat at my desk in silence, clicked forgot password on the Union Bay account, typed my email. It didn't recognize it. Of course it didn't. It wasn't my account. It wasn't in my name. But the transfers were real. They were mine. He got home that night with takeout. Sushi, my favorite. He kissed my forehead, said, "Long day?" I nodded. He handed me a glass of wine, said, "Here's to building." We toasted. We ate. I didn't say a word. Because what would I say? Hey, I found out today the broker isn't real, the duplex was a lie, and you're siphoning my savings into an account I can't see? He'd twist it. Call me paranoid. Call it temporary. Say it was part of our real estate deal. So I waited. I watched. I smiled. And I started tracking everything. The pattern was precise. Every Tuesday, around 11:40 a.m., money disappeared. Sometimes $200, sometimes $2,000. Always just below the daily fraud alert threshold. Smart, calculated, intentional. He wasn't just borrowing. He was bleeding me dry, strategically. It was slow. Just slow enough that I wouldn't notice in chunks. But I was watching now. And every week I felt myself slip further from the woman I used to be. The one who felt in control. The one who had financial goals. The one who didn't wake up dreading her own bank notifications. Then he made a mistake. He logged in on my laptop. He didn't log out. The browser just opened up the account. And there it was. The dashboard. The Union Bay account was in his ex-girlfriend's name. Recent deposits, mine. Transfer history, weekly. Recipient name? Not him. Not even a business name. It was a woman, Emily Torres. I stared at the name like it was a ghost. I opened a new tab and searched it. Her Instagram was private. Her LinkedIn wasn't. Financial consultant, based in Arizona. Current city, Scottsdale, where he had traveled for work the month before. He said he had a seminar, 3 days, client meetings, portfolio review. He brought back hotel soaps and a receipt from an expensive steakhouse. But now I knew he wasn't alone. He wasn't traveling for us. He was transferring me. I screenshotted everything. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because I needed more. I needed to know how deep this went. I needed to know if I was the affair or just the ATM. I called my best friend the next day. The one he told me to stop talking to because she was bad for me. Said she was too negative. Didn't support our goals. He meant she saw through him. I told her everything. She didn't sound surprised. I told her I recognized that name. She asked how. I said, that's his ex. The one before me. The one he said was still obsessed with him. She paused. She's not obsessed. He never let her go. He hadn't left her. He had built a pipeline between us. Taking from me. To fund her. To stay in her life. To, I don't even know. Rebuild what they had. Reward her for taking him back. Punish me for being too easy. All I know is this. The man who kissed me goodnight every night was giving my money to another woman, and I was still cooking him dinner. A week later, I confronted him. Not with rage, with silence. I laid out every printout. The Union Bay account. The email bounce. The fake signatures. He stared at it like it was a magic trick. Then, slowly, he said, I can explain. He explained everything, except the truth. Said it was a test run. Said he wanted to see if I was ready for the pressure of joint investing. Said it wasn't meant to hurt me. It was a simulation. For our future. I asked him to leave. He didn't fight. Didn't cry. Didn't apologize. Just grabbed his laptop, his charger, his toothbrush, and walked out like he'd just ended a meeting. I sat on the kitchen floor for 2 hours, shaking, spreadsheet still open on the table, his wine glass still full. And somewhere in Arizona, Emily Torres was probably buying coffee with my savings. I filed a police report the next morning. I didn't want to, but the bank said I needed one to launch a fraud claim. So I sat in a beige office chair under fluorescent lights, telling a stranger that my boyfriend had stolen from me. Except when they asked for his legal name, I paused. I only knew what he told me. Evan Mitchell, birth date, August 2nd, 1989. From Pennsylvania. Supposedly, went to Syracuse. Maybe. Worked in finance? Probably not. The detective squinted. Do you have any ID for him? I had a picture of his driver's license from when he applied for our loan. He smiled in it, smug, confident. She asked to take a copy. 15 minutes later, she came back. We ran the license number. It doesn't exist. Not expired, not suspended, not registered. Fictional. He had made it up. The ID was a fake. So was the name. There was no Evan Mitchell born on August 2nd, 1989 in the state of Pennsylvania. There were Evan Mitchells, but not mine. Not the man who used my Wi-Fi for 14 months. Not the one who kissed my forehead and picked up Thai food and brushed my hair behind my ear while stealing from me. He wasn't Evan, and I didn't know who the hell he was. I went home, opened the old laptop he left. Not on purpose. It was buried under the bed, still plugged into the outlet. I opened it. No password. He'd wiped the browser history, except one tab had been left open in private mode. A Reddit thread. A question. What's the best way to disappear after identity theft? And in the replies, a username, user3alpha, a profile full of posts, tips, disguises, how to forge utility bills, how to fake income verification letters, how to move money from account to account without triggering flags. It read like a guidebook, one he had been reading in my bed. I copied the username. I searched it everywhere. Nothing came up under real names, but one post had an email. Jordan.g.murphy87, a Gmail account. I froze. Because I had seen that name. Once, on a shipping label. A package that came to our apartment 6 months earlier. He said it was for a friend after I'd asked him about it. He said, "Oh, that's my old business partner." But it wasn't his business partner. It was him. His real name, maybe. Jordan Murphy, or something close. I sent the detective the email and Reddit handle. She told me later it connected to an active investigation in Colorado. Multiple cases, fraud, romance scams, stolen identities. She said they believed Evan had used at least 4 aliases in the last 5 years. No known residence, no legal job, just a trail of wreckage. Women like me, except some were worse off. One lost her retirement fund. Another signed over a power of attorney. They trusted him because he loved them. He used the love like a weapon. And I was just another casualty. The police said it was unlikely I'd recover the money. Too many layers, too many transfers. The accounts were shut. The IPs masked. The Union Bay account had been closed. Emily Torres? She was real, but she wasn't with him. He had stolen her identity. She was just another pawn in his game. Another identity he used to make it all feel legitimate. She had no idea I existed, and I wasn't the only one he used her name for. I spiraled. Not just from the betrayal, but from the realization that I never knew him at all. His voice, his body, his habits. They were real. But the name, the history, the promises, all fiction. He wrote a character, played him well. And I fell in love with a story that never existed. I started calling him the man in my apartment. Not my ex, not my partner, not even a con man. Just the man in my apartment. Because even the word man felt too human for what he did. At first, I told no one. I said we broke up. Said things didn't work out. Said it was mutual, that I was okay. It was easier than telling the truth. That I was scammed, robbed, humiliated by someone I let into my bed. Someone I fed and trusted and defended when my friends raised questions. I wasn't ready for the pity, or the judgment, or the shame. So I said nothing. Until the calls started. It was my bank first, then my credit card. Then my job. I had filed the fraud report, but that meant red flags were raised everywhere. My credit score plummeted almost 400 points. My accounts were temporarily frozen. The joint card he told me to open? He used my name, my SSN, and an old phone number to request a limit increase. They granted it, then maxed it. The card company said I had authorized it. They had voice verification on file. But it wasn't my voice. It was a recording of mine, pieced together from voicemails, played through an AI tool. I couldn't prove it wasn't me. Because technically, it was. Then came the IRS, a 1099 from a consulting company in Nevada filed under my name. $22,000 in income I never earned. It triggered a review of my taxes, delayed my refund, flagged me for an audit. I called the IRS, said I'd never worked for them. They said I'd submitted a W-9 with my SSN, my signature, a scanned ID. It was mine. Except I never sent it. He had. He used my information to create employment history. For me. To validate himself. To anchor his own fake portfolio to something that looked real. And I had no idea. I broke down at work. Tried to explain to my manager why I'd missed 3 days in a row. Why I was late submitting reports. Why I jumped at every phone call like it was a bomb. She was kind. Too kind. That was worse. She said, "I understand if you need time." I said, "I need money." And I cried in the stairwell for 23 minutes before going back to my desk. I told my sister next, the one I'd laughed with months earlier about his color-coded Google Doc. She didn't laugh now. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just held my hand and said, "We'll figure this out." She helped me set up credit monitoring, helped me dispute the filing, sat with me while I filed affidavits. It was brutal. But not as brutal as what came next. My sister texted me one night, 1:13 a.m., a screenshot. It was from a Facebook post deep in the archives. A photo of me from college standing in front of a campus event booth. Next to it, a comment from a profile we didn't recognize. "Great photo. Congrats on all your success." The post was from 4 years ago. The comment? 1 year ago. The profile name? Jordan M., and of course, no picture was included in the profile. Just a shadowy gray default icon. I clicked through. Dead account. Barely any activity. No friends, no posts. Just one about entry. Aspiring investor. I believe in planning ahead for your future. I sat there, heart racing. This wasn't random. He'd found me before we ever met. He'd researched me, watched me, scouted my life like a job interview. Because I fit the profile. Young, educated, no family in town, some savings, clean credit, and a digital footprint just big enough for him to build a story around. He'd been watching me, laying the groundwork before we met in person. And when he introduced himself at that networking event, it wasn't chance. It was the final act of a plan I never saw coming. I wasn't unlucky. I was targeted. He found me because I was ideal. And he destroyed me because he could. Started collecting names, not intentionally at first. It began with Emily Torres, the woman whose name was tied to the Union Bay account. Then I stumbled across the Nevada consulting firm, the one he used to file the tax document under my name. I found their employee page archived in a cache. There was a woman listed under the name Claire Hartley. She didn't work there anymore. But she had the same street address on file that we once lived at. That wasn't coincidence. That was familiar. Too familiar. I dug deeper. Reddit threads, scam survivor forums, private Facebook groups. Women who'd been duped, drained, discarded. Different names, different cities, same description. A charming, slightly older man. Professional-sounding job. Real estate ambitions. Crypto talk. Financial advice that slowly turned into financial access. Same words, same tricks. And then, gone. I found 5 women who described someone like him, in vivid detail. Different aliases, always a new name. Sometimes Evan, sometimes Jordan. Once, Nathan Cole. Same cologne, same phrases, same taste in whiskey, even the same signature dish he cooked for me, lemon garlic pasta. I messaged one of the women privately. Her name was Renee. She lived in Texas. Her story matched mine exactly, even down to the Union Bay account withdrawals. He'd told her he was a startup investor. He used the same Google Doc template, same folders, same font. She showed me screenshots of her financial dashboard, nearly $34,000 siphoned in 6 months. He told her the same thing he told me, for our future. And then poof, gone. She said he left behind an old duffel bag. Inside, a burner phone. A handwritten note with 3 email addresses. One of them was the fake Darren email, the one he used to pose as a broker with me. Another was one I hadn't seen before. So I tried it. I emailed from a dummy account. I said I was interested in a consulting package. He replied in minutes, used the name Chris Ainsley. His tone, professional, friendly, confident. He offered a 3-month mentorship program for aspiring investors. Said he could teach me how to leverage financial tools for accelerated growth. And all he needed to get started was my credit report and a login to my banking portal. I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then I reported it to the authorities. We got him. At the moment, I didn't know if I would ever see my money again. But we stopped him, and we knew he couldn't ever do this to another woman again. Later that night, it hit me like a brick wall. This wasn't my mistake. I wasn't stupid or gullible. It was a system. He wasn't freelancing betrayal. He was running it. A method. A playbook. He tested scripts, optimized trust, tracked emotional milestones. He was a startup founder, all right. A founder of ghosts, ghost accounts, ghost names, ghost lives. And each one was built with the pieces he stole from women like me. I cried that night. Not because of the money, or the lies, or the shame, but because he probably didn't even remember my name. To him, I was account number 6. March acquisition, June cohabitation target. Nothing more. As his trial got started, the prosecutor asked me to search all my files to see if I missed anything. And there it was. I didn't find it at first because I had switched phones, upgraded. But I kept the old one in a drawer, just in case. That night, I opened it and went looking. I opened my iCloud drive. And there it was. A shared folder. Not mine. His. The name was boring. Q3 Financials. But when I clicked inside, my breath caught. It wasn't spreadsheets. It was documents, notes, photos, dozens of files. Some with my name, some with names I didn't recognize. Until I realized they were all women. Renee, Claire, Emily, Alicia. Even names I hadn't seen in the forums. They were all there. Each had a file study. Mine was titled Lydia_M, Tier 2. Tier 2? What did that mean? I opened it. My birthday, address, social security number, my banking login attempts, password history, credit score range. Then a bullet list. Cautious with large transfers. Needs reassurance. Responds well to shared goals language. Avoids confrontation, will apologize first. Has strong sister bond, isolate gently. Ideal for co-investment scam. Timeline, 12 to 15 months. I couldn't breathe, because it wasn't just a file. It was his plan, his roadmap of how to manipulate me and all his other victims. And it worked. Line by line. Every behavior I thought was unique to us. Scripted, tested, filed. I was just one out of dozens of targets. And he had graded me. There were notes on me and others too. One woman was flagged high yield, low resistance. Another marked cut early, suspicion raised. They had rankings, tags. He kept score. Like it was a game, not a life, not a heart. Just data points, targets, statistics. And in a folder labeled Retired Scripts, there were Word documents, templates, paragraphs he copied and pasted between relationships. Even that line he whispered to me after we made love for the first time. I've never felt this safe with anyone before. It was in there, verbatim, with an asterisk. Deploy post-intimacy to deepen bond. I wanted to vomit. I stared at the screen with tears running sideways down my cheeks. He hadn't just fooled me. He hadn't even cared enough to make it personal. He played us all, like we were pieces on a board. And every file I opened confirmed the truth. He never loved any of us. Not a single one. That was the final twist. Not the money, not the lies, not even the name. But the realization that love for him was just leverage. Affection was currency. Trust was a line item. I gave him my heart. He filed it under assets. And the worst part? I still sometimes wake up reaching for him. Not because I miss him, but because I miss the lie. The safety of it. The way it felt. For a while. Before I knew what it really was. There's no neat ending here. Yes, he went to jail. No, none of us got any of our money back. We all learned a big lessons. But no closure for me. Just a hole. Where my future used to be. Where I thought we were going. Now filled with silence and shame and 1,000 red flags. Because I wanted it to be real. Because I needed it to be real. And I believed him.